Before we dive in, let me tell you exactly what you're about to hear, because this video isn't just a list of stats or a rant about politics. It's a breakdown of how the American economy already collapsed, how you're feeling the consequences every day without realizing it, and why the people in power will never admit it. If you stay until the end, you'll understand not only what went wrong, but what you need to do next to protect yourself and take back control. The sun still shines, shopping malls buzz with activity, and TikTok is flooded with influencers flaunting their lavish lifestyles, showcasing luxury trips, brand new cars, and homes that look like movie sets, creating an illusion of prosperity that feels oddly disconnected from the daily grind most Americans endure. But peel back the curtain, look beneath the surface, and you'll see that what we're living in isn't the prelude to collapse, it's the aftermath of one that's already happened, a silent implosion hidden behind a wall of manipulated data, carefully curated media narratives, and a collective agreement to pretend everything's just fine. Wall Street is booming, the stock market dances near all-time highs, and official unemployment numbers whisper comfort with their low percentages. Yet if you stop and ask an average American, can you afford to buy a home? Do you have even $500 saved for an emergency? Could you survive a single month without your paycheck? The answer, more often than not, is a quiet, painful no, because the metrics used to sell stability to the masses have long since divorced themselves from reality on the ground. This isn't growth. It's a carefully staged performance. A theater of prosperity masking systemic desperation. Let's talk about debt, the invisible weight dragging the nation into quicksand with every tick of the interest clock. The US government now carries over $34 trillion in national debt, and consumers are choking on more than $17 trillion in personal debt, while credit card interest rates soar past 21%, climbing higher for those who can least afford it. Americans no longer borrow to build, they borrow to breathe. Groceries go on credit. Rent is paid with borrowed money. Medical emergencies become lifelong financial traps. And the government, laughably, borrows more money just to pay the interest on money it already owes. This isn't sustainable economics. It's a carefully dressed Ponzi scheme, a system built on illusions of solvency, waiting for one wrong shock to cascade into a full-blown disaster. And what about inflation? They'll tell you it's gone down, that things are under control, but have you seen the shelves lately? Prices haven't dropped, they've simply stopped rising quite so fast, which isn't a victory, it's a reprieve. Eggs still cost nearly double what they did in 2020. Rent has skyrocketed. Insurance, utilities, daycare, essentials, not luxuries, continue to climb. The official Consumer Price Index says 3.4%, but it doesn't account for your rent doubling, your grocery bill devouring half your income, or your monthly childcare costing more than your mortgage. What matters is not what's measured on paper, but what's felt in the real world, and what Americans feel is an erosion of their standard of living, a slow, grinding slide downward with no bottom in sight. And yet, millions of Americans continue to hustle, piecing together 2, 3, even 4 jobs, not to get ahead, but simply to keep their heads above water. The so-called Great Resignation didn't lead to freedom, it led to the Great Hustle, a desperate search for stability in a landscape of crumbling wages, evaporating benefits, and rising costs. We don't have an unemployment crisis, we have a crisis of underemployment, a crisis of meaning, a crisis of dignity, where people are burned out before they're 30, running harder every year just to stay in place. This isn't economic recovery. It's a national grind, a collective burnout hidden beneath the buzzwords of innovation and resilience. And in the middle of this storm sits the Federal Reserve, the so-called guardian of monetary stability, which printed over $5 trillion in less than 2 years, igniting the inflation they now pretend to battle. Then, like an arsonist grabbing a garden hose, they slammed the brakes, raising interest rates at breakneck speed in an attempt to fix the fire they helped light. But now they're trapped. Lower rates will fuel more inflation. Higher rates will crash credit markets, destabilize housing, and bankrupt businesses sitting on mountains of debt. There is no graceful exit. Only different flavors of pain. Meanwhile, Wall Street celebrates. The S&P 500 climbs. Tech stocks soar. AI becomes the new speculative bubble. Venture capitalists throw billions at fantasies while the media paints it all as progress. But here's the unspoken truth. The top 10% of Americans own 89% of all stocks, while the bottom half own virtually nothing. So when the markets rise, who wins? Not the families living paycheck to paycheck. Not the workers juggling rideshare apps at midnight. The stock market isn't the economy, it's a scoreboard for the wealthy. Let me ask you something, do you think this system still works for most people? Or are we just pretending it does because it's too terrifying to admit the truth? Let me know in the comments what you see happening around you, in your own life or your community. I want to hear what you think, because these numbers are only half the story. You are the other half. The middle class, once the beating heart of American prosperity, is being erased. Owning a home, raising a family, retiring with dignity, what was once the baseline is now a dream, a luxury. Today, you either own appreciating assets and ride the inflation wave, or you rent everything and drown slowly in its wake. This isn't just a wealth gap, it's a control gap. Because true freedom isn't just about income, it's about time, stability, and choices. And most Americans have lost all three. Security has become a fairy tale. We've replaced full-time jobs with gigs. We call it flexibility. But it's really fragility. From Uber to DoorDash, TaskRabbit to Fiverr, we've created an economy where everyone's a freelancer but no one is truly free. No benefits. No retirement. No long-term vision. You are a business of one, competing in a rigged marketplace, armed with nothing but desperation and a smartphone. This isn't innovation, it's digital serfdom dressed in a hoodie. And while the collapse of 2008 was dramatic and sudden, today's version is quiet, invisible, and ongoing. Commercial real estate is rotting. Office towers sit empty. Downtowns are transforming into ghost towns. Banks are quietly shutting down branches. Pensions are underfunded. Social Security is gasping. Medicare is overloaded. This isn't a crisis waiting to happen, it's one that's already underway, disguised by distraction and muted by managed narratives. So why isn't there outrage? Why aren't the streets filled with protests? Because people have normalized the pain. They've adapted to stress. Accepted anxiety as baseline. People are too tired to revolt, too distracted to think critically, and too deep in debt to stop and breathe. We've mistaken survival for success. And while the media drowns us in celebrity gossip and political theater, the real economy crumbles in silence. And what comes next? More layoffs. More defaults. More consolidation. Fewer small businesses. More bailouts for the rich. And then, more control, central bank digital currencies. Real-time surveillance of spending. Social credit creep. A digital dollar where every transaction is traceable, reversible, and controllable. Privacy will become a myth. Access will become conditional. And financial freedom? A memory, unless you choose to fight for it. But here's the good news, yes, there is some. You still have power. You can choose to act. To build. To adapt. You can start by owning assets, stocks, real estate, skills. Not the fantasy kind sold in scammy webinars, but the real stuff, income generating, inflation beating, freedom giving tools. You can learn skills that thrive in any economy, create value that isn't replaceable, and build buffers that protect your time, your mind, and your future. You can unplug from the matrix one action at a time. Because the collapse already happened. Now it's about who wakes up, and who still thinks the show is real. Stay awake. Stay informed. Stay rich. This video is not financial advice. It's a wake-up call. You're not crazy. You're not lazy. You're in a system that wasn't designed for your freedom. But if you see it, if you understand it, then you can beat it. The collapse is here. The question is, what are you going to do about it?